You and I are both here for one thing, for this thing we call life. We were brought here to do something while we're here. That something is creation.
Yeah.
We were brought here to make this appear, take the form, take the shape of what's in here. You were brought here looking for freedom, looking for unboundedness, looking for limitlessness. And it's been under your nose the entire time. It's been in your ability to create this world in your image. The ability to construct the environment around you and the circumstances around you to meet what's going on in here. To answer to the voice that's behind it all, the pilot, the proper narrator, the highest self. Today and I want to jump into the topic of creation. How we are creators, we are the creation, and we are making this machine roll constantly with our thoughts, with our actions that become habits, that become behavior, that are only reinforcing our beliefs. But we're not stuck to the default, and that's the point. We don't have to just settle for default. We don't have to settle for someone else's creation. We don't have to settle for someone else's lowercase truth. It's your time, it's your life, it's your energy. It was given to you to be a good steward, to do so as you saw to be wise. Wake up. Realize that it's not happening by default. You can accept someone else's creation, but you always have the power to get back on your hands back on the wheel and just take over. Do it. And what it's actually allowing you to do is not to change the environment around you so that it becomes easier for you, but it allows you to be in a position where you're okay enough to change the environment around you to challenge yourself. It gets you in a higher standing where you're so confident with yourself, you're so ready to challenge yourself, that you say, I'm actually going to choose this, I'm going to choose this, I'm going to choose this, I'm sacrificing this because I'm actually paying it forward for my future self. I'm acting now as my high self, saying, this is healthier, this is going to give me more vitality, this is going to help me to stay in the state that I enjoy, in the state of peace, in the state of a higher vibration. These choices, these decisions are going to create my future reality because I'm picking better ones now. What do you think?
Well, I mean, going on the creation, it ties into everything we've been talking about, who we are at our essence, at our core, how we were created to be, but tying it in even closer, more on a personal, deeper, inside of you level, it's understanding that we are in fact created in the image of the Creator. Okay, so if you believe in any way that we are created beings, that there's something deeper, there's something intelligent about this design, then, and we're created in that image, okay, then the root characteristic of that creator is creativity. To be able to step outside and look at all of creation and realize all of it was created, and the vastness of creativity, the beauty of the colors, the design, just everything, the connectedness between everything. You cannot look at nature and not see beauty, and within that beauty is creativity. They go hand in hand. You want to exude more beauty in your life? Be more creative in your life. You want to know what it is to be one with God, connect with God. Learn to create in your life. Learn to be more creative in your life. That's one of our closest links to God, is allowing that creativity to flow freely. If you catch yourself daydreaming, smile and continue. Unless you're operating a heavy machinery or something dangerous, let yourself daydream. Let yourself, think about this and let that thought go to this one and then that one, and just let it follow its natural progression of connecting dots and just seeing, where it can go. Let your imagination just flow freely. Imagine you, yourself, 10 years from now. What does that version of you look like? If you could have the perfect life in your own definition, what is your love life like? Are you in a true, happy, beautiful relationship with a significant other, and you're married and you have kids, and and you have this, and then, imagine all those things. How are you influencing other people? How are you being impactful in society? Imagine all those details, and let that imagination, creativity flow of that future version of yourself. And then, when you come out of that little daydream spell, decide to live the way that guy would live today. Allow that creativity to help visualize the type of man, the type of woman that you can be, that you want to be, that true version of yourself. And when you fully are able to visualize every detail of that person's life, choose to live that life today. What decisions would he have made 10 years earlier in his life? It's I know it sounds a little bonkers, but being able to let your creativity help decide the path that you're going to be walking in life, the choices that you're going to be making, and letting creativity be at the root of all of that. So creativity is a very profound thing that, like I said, connects us directly to the Creator.
I like a lot of the points you just touched on.
I hope you like them all.
No, I like them all, but there was just a couple that stood out to me as very, very powerful. One of those is in what we receive because we are also creators, because we are co-creators, we're given ultimate potentiality. So we have all this possibility, this unlimited possibility in what we can execute, what we can create. So we have to kind of see where it's coming from, what the impetus, the input is. So what ideas are coming into the garden? But even if you have the best ideas, if you never let them swirl around and intermix, and if you don't allow yourself to reflect on all these wonderful ideas you've inherited over time, and allow the mind, without conscious effort, to work those things out, and allow Source and God to connect with you and say, this is what's important right now, to where you feel it in your head and you feel it in your gut. If you don't give enough time for the ideas to become real to you, they're kept borrowed. But the good ideas, once you own them, subconsciously, they work to change your operating paradigm, to change the operating rules in your brain, to allow you, now when you go into something that you've probably done 1,000 times before, once you have a new rule in place, a better rule in place, you go to this thing that you've done 1,000 times before, and now on the 1,001th time, you do it completely new. You do it much better, free. You get into a flow state. Why does it happen randomly sometimes that way to people? Because they finally just let go. After so much monotony, so much repetition, they let go to try to be consciously in control of it, and they just allow what they know to take over. And this will happen in your game if you play golf, if you play tennis, if you play basketball, if you play any sport, and you've reached that boundary of trying and repeating enough. If you're in martial arts and you're doing self-defense, if you could do the same move literally 1,000 times and then you know it. Your muscles are in such, they've done it so many times that they know it. Your mind doesn't even need to know it anymore. Your muscles know it now. That's kind of what we have to do with our creativity muscle. We have to get to the ease of pushing ourselves to do it, even though it's uncomfortable, until you've done it 1,000 times, and then your brain is tricked and just does it automatically. And what is it that we're talking about? It's not just creativity. It's creativity as it's tied into creation, into the actual creation of our lives, into the choosing, the holding on to, the projecting into the future, and then manifesting in the present, all the things that we've consciously added into our lives, that we've consciously decided belong here. They fit in my life because they're in tune with who I know in my deepest part of my being to be. They're in tune with who I know that I will be, but also in who I know I am right now, because all that is right now. But there's a self that exists in timelessness, the eternal self, the highest self. I am connected with my highest self. I am here. But what I am seeing with my 5 senses and what I'm seeing here in this reality is my present self, a tiny bit part of myself that's trapped in time. That part of myself is trying to catch up with my highest self, with my timeless self. And so if I can do the mental exercise of saying, I'm going to operate as my highest self. I'm going to operate as if I have everything I possibly need and can possibly conceive, which I do have. And if I operate from that mindset, I wonder how I will behave. I wonder what my behavior will then become into habits. I wonder what kind of habits will become into a lifestyle, and what kind of lifestyle will reinforce the beliefs that are ever more empowering and continue to allow me to grow upward. But I wonder what those are, and I really won't know those until experientially I go and try and walk in the footsteps of my highest self. So I love that you talked about that exercise. And the other part that really stood out to me is creation. It's something we do actively. It's something that's our responsibility. Otherwise, we'll just become backseat to a life lived on default. But because we have the opportunity to make it beautiful, because it's in our control to be able to add and paint on all this beauty, because we know within our true selves what beauty is, it's a part of us, it's a part of life, and it can only be made through creation. Beauty does not exist but through creation. So because of all of that, we have too much to be thankful for. Creation is one of those things that makes it so, first of all, the buck is in my court. It's on me because I'm a co-creator. So I can't be throwing the blame and pretending that it is circumstance that is guiding my definition, my path, my purpose. No way. It's my decisions that are framing that. But because the buck's on me, I also have to know that as long as everything's okay, clearly there's some grace. Clearly there's some wiggle room that the universe, that God is allowing there to exist. Because I have messed up, I fucked up a lot, and yet everything is okay. I'm constantly stumbling, and yet everything is okay. So what does that let me know? If it really is in my control, which it is, and by default I've still been okay, well, thank you, Lord, but what does that mean? That means the possibilities are ever that much higher. The possibilities allow for much better. Even though things are good now, they allow for much better. It means that I always have room to reach in everything in my life. And that's beautiful. Because creation allows that possibility, and it's within my capability. Creation is within my capability, because it's who I am. I am creator. I am creation. I'm part of it and co-creating at the same time.
Important thing, you mentioned it earlier when you were talking about martial arts. Okay, practicing it 1,000 times until your body knows it, right? So at the premise of that, I assume, is that in the moment of having to, whether through self-defense, whatever, the whole point is not to think, right? But rather respond, not give your body time to have to think, what am I going to do? How am I going to defend this? How am I going to do that? But rather, with zero thinking, you react and solve every problem, correct? Mm-hmm. And it also reminds me, in my case, music. I never studied martial arts, but I studied music. And in college, I remember my professor making us learn them scales, and all these scales and scales and scales and scales, and repeat the scale and play the scale and play the scale. And he would tell me, he's like, you have to practice it until you know that you know that you know that you know that you know your scales. And he's like, I want to be able to come, bang in on your dorm room door at 4 a.m. and wake you up and have you open the door all like, half asleep, and tell you, grab your trumpet and play, F sharp, make up a scale, and you be able to play on the spot, half asleep, and just flow through it without giving a second's thought, okay? And so, in your example of martial arts, mind of music, the common denominator is absence of thought. Thought is a dam that blocks the flow of creativity on many, many occasions, okay? Notice, if you are a daydreamer, you're not thinking. You're not analyzing what you're not doing the play-by-play of your imagination, you don't have that monkey brain voice of yours that you usually hear throughout your day, just going and talking about and making up stories about every single encounter you have in the day. You encounter someone in your life and they make a comment, you automatically start, well, they said that because of this, and they must think this, and they must this, and that monkey brain just goes crazy, and you don't have time to just ponder and imagine and create and just enjoy and observe, and instead you're just making up stories about what's going on. Turn off that brain, turn off that thought pattern, that monkey brain. Be silent. Learn to be okay in that quiet and that stillness and that silence. Yeah. Okay? And realize that when that is turned off, your creativity, that dam is not busted up. It's not holding back the waters of creativity. So at any instant throughout your day, when you need that creative spark, or you might not even thinking about it, but things just come up. It's like you're wittier than ever. You're more like, you got this, you got that. If you're an artist, if you're a musician, you just feel like the lines just flow better. If you're talking with someone, it's like you don't have to think about the next word that's going to come out of my mouth. It's called flowing. You just flow. You don't give it any thought. You don't give it any, preconceived this or pre-this or pre. You just let it flow. Just go open your mouth and just let it run. Okay, not always through the filter of what comes out of your mouth is very important. Okay, be very mindful of the things you say. Don't speak out of stupidity or out of ignorance or out of self-limiting lies and deceit. Okay, so be mindful of what comes out of your mouth. Let it flow through your heart first. Be truthful to that, but don't be afraid to open up and just let your creativity flow in whatever aspect it may be. So if there's a certain aspect, like for an artist, if you feel like you have a blockage in that creativity, find a way to turn off the thoughts in your art. Okay, if you're feeling either through repetition of drawing if you're having trouble drawing the perfect hand, I know hands are really hard to draw for a lot of artists, So if you're having trouble drawing the perfect hand, well then be patient enough to draw 1,000 imperfect ones. Yeah. Over and over and over and over, and just draw every imperfect hand you can over and over again, until every hand you draw is perfect. Where when you're drawing that hand, you're absent thought of what should go into that drawing or not go into that drawing. You're just flowing drawing it because you've done it 1,000 times. If it's playing a certain tune, play it 1,000 times the wrong way, so that when you play it the right way, it's just right. It's using that concept of just stop thinking and just start creating. Turn off that thought side. And real quick, going to that future you, the important thing is not becoming who that is. It's not a matter of inventing this person in the figment of your imagination and just going way out there and creating something that might exist or that, It's be true to you, okay? Imagine that true you, but realize it's already you. So it's not something you have to become. You're already that person. You're just 10 years earlier in that path, in that journey. So become that. Realize it. Don't become it. Realize it. Realize that that's who you already are. And it's okay. He's just 10 years further down the line. So I'm not becoming that person. I am that person today, right now. And every day that I make these decisions that I've been making every day are going to lead me to fulfill the man that I realize I am today. That's giving me the assurance that my path is strong. That I'm not going to waver from my path, is knowing my destination. It's the compass and the rocket. I'm going to launch like a freaking rocket, but I'm setting my compass very detailed in my mind, knowing who I am. Then I know who I was in the past, and I'm okay with that. Like you said earlier, I did a lot of shit in my life too. I've had my ups and I've had my downs. I've had severe times of depression, and I've had times of joy, sustained joy, constant joy. But it wasn't until I was able to look at that past version of myself and see him through the eyes of compassion and love and unconditional and just non-judgmental. Don't let stories form about who that person is. That person doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. And being okay with that makes me okay with now, and realizing who I am in the future makes me okay with now. It's, kind of have fun time traveling in your brain, backwards and forward, and you begin to realize that now is what matters. Who you decide to be today.
Exactly.
But you can create that.
I think having the freedom to go wherever you need in time to make sure no stone has been left unturned. Any stone under which you could be hiding some kind of unforgiveness, some kind of shame or regret, those, or anger or hatred, where we have tightly bound energy bundles in our memory, we will often manifest sickness in our physical bodies. We will manifest something that holds us back in our physical reality in a staggering way. If there is something that is troubling you right now, go and check to see if it might not be connected to some level of unforgiveness, some level of self-hate or doubt or shame that is coming from things that we have stored in the past. And a lot of our emotional baggage is usually tied into also unforgiveness, and if not with someone else, with ourselves. The reason I bring this up is it's very hard to live in a creative space without judgment if what is present, manifest, and real to you is shame, is hatred, is anything other than self-love and love towards everything else. If there is any kind of self-hate, then as soon as you try to get into a creative space, the voice of judgment will come crashing down and will be debilitating, because the way that you are in relationship with the voice inside of your own head is unhealthy. The relationship that you have with yourself is, at this present moment that we're discussing, needing a little bit of love. As soon as that starts getting aligned and it gets that path between you and yourself, when you realize that there is no distance between you and yourself, that concept is just crazy. But then we allow that to happen because we have to separate ourselves from our tormentor in our mind. We have to separate ourselves from this voice that's bringing us down.
Normalize everything.
And this voice is telling us to go kill and steal and be jealous. And you're like, what is going on? It must be crazy. Well, it's not you. Take away your identity as it pertains to the voice in your head. Separate yourself. Do not own those words. Just let them go. Let them pass you by. Watch it go like waves in an ocean. And as you allow that to go, and you become better allowing that to happen, you're going to be much more efficient and much more productive in your creative space, whatever kind of creation you're doing. One concept I wanted to bring in here. You have something that's called a reticular activating system, or a reticular activation system. All that means is, and tell me if you've ever noticed this, when you buy a new car, or get a new outfit, a new hat, all of a sudden, you notice that car everywhere, you notice that outfit everywhere, you notice that hat. Why is that? Well, it's because you've now been made aware of this thing in space, in your environment. When you buy a Volkswagen Beetle and you start driving around in your Beetle, you will now notice every Beetle that is in the neighborhood, in the street, on the highway. So what ends up happening is your subconscious mind says, this is something to look for, and then helps you, without you even having to worry, point it out everywhere.
I thought they just magically appeared out of nowhere.
That's the reticular activating system. How are we supposed to use it as we're hacking our lives? Well, the best way that I have found to use it is twofold. The first one is to use it to make your mind aware of the chatter that is not helping you, of the self-limiting thoughts, the self-limiting patterns, the lies that we are acting on or operating on that are causing bad behavior. Behavior that's, ultimately holding me back and keeping me from growth. As I make myself aware of those thoughts, here or there, my mind starts flipping on a switch and conditioning itself, rewiring itself to become better at picking out similar thoughts. So I can cut them off? No, but the more that I can become aware of them and just see them, the more I can disidentify with them, stop owning them, stop blaming myself, show a little compassion in my humanity for the fact that everyone deals with this, and I can get better at saying, I don't need that thought. Actually, I start realizing that thought is a lie. I'm going to replace it with this. And I become better at now staying on and feeding the good thoughts, the positive thoughts. The second use for the reticular activating system is not only to help me figure out and be vigilant of the thoughts, it's to help me see the possibilities around me that are happening in the physical manifested world. What do I mean by that? The more that we use our brains to visualize and pay attention to good things around us, things that we can be thankful for, the more our subconscious mind starts getting triggered to point out other similar positive things and similar opportunities around us. We have to train our minds to become resourceful and looking for opportunity and the things we can be grateful for, the things we can be thankful for. Why? Because we're trying to live in a state of gratitude, and we're trying to live in a state where we are constantly open and aware of opportunity as it comes before us, as it greets us. Because it would be terrible to fall upon some great luck, a great opportunity, and not count it as such, not even realize what it is, not take this thing and accept it what it's for, something that the universe has sent to help us, something that God has put right in front of us to allow us an opportunity to act on. And instead we're blind to opportunity because we have a filter, a jade, a perception of the world that's looking at everything half empty. It's looking at everything through a red film, looking at everything as hurting us and not adding and just happening to us. When in reality, it's happening for us, it's adding to us, and everything is perfect for our situation. It's perfect in its time. The self that's bound in time doesn't have to worry because God, the universe, our highest self, has already set up what's going to happen in this time, and we're unfolding perfectly in this time.
Yeah. Another important factor is to tie in that creativity with your physical body. Okay, if it's music, learning an instrument, learning that dexterity, percussion, learning the separation of limbs with rhythmic figures, polyrhythms, things like that. If it's a piano, it's the dexterity, synchronizing the different fingers, where they should go, learning those things. Guitar, doing chords here while strumming here. It involves a lot of dexterity, coordination. With trumpet, for me, it's the vowels, the same time tuning, at the same time lip buzzing, the sound. You're involving so many aspects of your physiology tied into that creative part of the brain. And what happens, and it's been documented scientifically, is neuroplasticity occurs drastically. That's one of the quickest and fastest ways to create neuroplasticity. Reshape your brain, make it more depth in those lobes, which increases intelligence. Okay, and also music in particular. Through art, through dance, through all, basically any expression of the arts, you can incorporate your physical body and dexterity and things like that, and learn to coordinate the two, so they can achieve that. But music has a special, a certain, I guess, goes to another level where it incorporates left and right side of the brain. It sparks up. They've shown MRIs and different scans, of the brain with music. Just listening to music alone sparks both sides of the brain impressively. But when you incorporate the playing of the music, the brain does something that is on genius levels. So taking the time to learn those things, okay, taking the time to that patience, like we said in the martial arts, and martial arts is another perfect example of having that creativity with the body, but realize that on a physiological level, it's also making you so much smarter. It's helping you increase your IQ. When you get in touch with the beauty side of creativity, okay, it'll also increase your EQ, your emotional level, and being able to explore those things are going to benefit you in more ways than you could imagine, not just on the creative way. And then also, think big, create big, exaggerate, okay? Why? Because if you exaggerate in your daydreaming, in your creative thought, then it's very easy to be creative on the small things throughout your day, okay? So an example of that is, and for some people it's extremely difficult. I know I struggle with this, but if I close my eyes and try to imagine myself flying through the sky like Superman, it's kind of hard to visualize it in my brain sometimes, because that's an area that I had limited for so many years, of just that free form, daydream just going off, But when you're able to imagine and be that creative on that level of something just extraordinarily, outrageously, sci-fi, whatever, then it's like training that creative muscle. You're at this point, you're a freaking bodybuilder with that creativity muscle. So when an obstacle comes in your work, or some kind of thing, you're able to think out of the box, and it looks easy to you because your brain is used to just thinking outrageous things already. So One is allow your IQ to raise through incorporating that dexterity, through practicing, through this, that, the other, but also allowing that imagination flow freely on an exaggerated way. Okay, that way on your day to day, you're just constantly being creative.
Right.
And I believe that also will help if you have creative blocks in your life. Well, think bigger than that. Just tear that block away.
In scaling up your thinking, you might overcome the small problem that you were starting off with.
I read that Albert Einstein, he would often do this, and I heard that that's actually how he came up with the theory of relativity. Was he would be stumped in his lab, in his office, just stumped on a solution, or trying to figure something out. And when he'd get to the point of total frustration and I give up, he'll just go to the other room, pick up his violin, and just start playing music. And he'll just lose himself playing music, and all of a sudden, the idea would come, and he would connect all the dots, and it was like, oh, I got it. And he'll go right back and solve the problem. When you allow your brain to just turn off the monkey mind, let your creativity flow, it connects. These pathways just light up in your brain, and you're able to solve things. So that's cool.
It's sad how we're not necessarily given every opportunity, every one of us, to understand those limits, those possibilities of the mind. Better said, we have less limits than we think. We have less constraints in our thinking than we're brought up to think. And part of the reason that we just accept this is we're not put necessarily by inspiration from others or from our environment into situations that truly test our limitations, test our present limitations in this instance in time. Because as soon as we push on those limitations, we realize they're not a limitation at all. They're just a boundary that I am perceiving, that I'm seeing. It's the extent to which I have known. So anything beyond it, I don't know, and therefore I have fear of it. I manifest that as a limitation. I don't know what is beyond. But I'm limitless. You are limitless. And so when it comes to things like creativity, like it comes to things like improvisation, or getting into a flow state and being able to rhyme and freestyle, being able to write a song or write poetry or dance in improvisation or do comedic improv or just wing something or just go and flow in something, perform in something physical, something not physical, kick butt in chess. Anything that you get concentrated, focused on, that your attention goes to, and that you get so in the zone that you really perform, you know what I'm talking about. Those moments in time give us confidence, they make us feel alive. We look for them, we seek them out constantly because they might give us a sense of adrenaline or a sense of purpose. But really what they're doing is they're giving us an opportunity to get comfortable in the creative space. In the space where we get to decide what happens, where we say, this is going to happen. If I go this way, my ski is going to go that way. I'm going to lean that way. To be able to do that with our bodies, or do that with our minds, or with our words, or whatever we're using, our hands as we play an instrument, it feels powerful. We get to make something. It's part of our purpose and who we are. We are here to make things. We are creators. But part of what that demands of us is to not sit around doing the same thing. We have to seek out new inspiration because the creator is working on first time around. It's always new. That's what creation is. To just mimic and copy, that's something else. And we do that. We imitate to learn how to get to the top, how to learn how mastery. We go and learn from better until we get to the best. We keep learning from those that are a little better with us until we see the best. And once you're the best at something in the entire world, well, then others come to learn from you. And it's this vicious cycle. But ultimately, the creator is making new, is taking from up here and putting down on paper, taking from up here and making it exist and manifest in this world. That's not an easy thing. And that takes discipline, going to that space. But it's really just taking regularity, familiarity with that space, the creative space. You have to have a relationship with yourself that is healthy enough so that when you are going into this space, you're not judging yourself. You're not there to give a commentary. You're there to observe what you're capable of, what is possible, which is everything, which is infinite, which is never going to run out. You're never going to be bored of it. Being in this space, creating in this space, is fulfilling because it's always new. It satiates this desire to be surprised. It satiates this need for validation. When you have a healthy relationship with yourself, it is your own self that goes, good job. Instead, carry onward. Why do we go out for the words, the hugs, the validation of others? Because we're not giving it to ourselves. As soon as we are there to say, you got this, I don't need it from somebody else. I got it right here inside, in my home, in my true self. If I want to be playing on a level of the creators I admire, if I want to be playing on the level of the players, the performers I admire, I have to go and see what it is they're doing to be there. What they're doing to be there is they're trusting themselves. They're doing it their own way. They're not playing by somebody else's rules to be in this game. There are a set of universal rules to this game, but each player that's at the very top is there because they're being themselves. They've taken the time enough to get to know themselves, not try to create themselves. That's an illusion. It's to get to know myself and have myself be revealed. It's this revelation of who myself is. As it is revealed to me, I am ever more aware, and thereby because my perception is changing, my reality starts changing. Because I'm more aware, and I'm seeing this newly revealed part of myself that's adding to my reality. But I'm not becoming anything more. Nothing's being added to me. I wasn't broken and I'm now fixed. I just am. That's enough. That's enough for me. That's enough for you. You have enough. You are enough. Everything you need. Everything you could want. It's already here. Right now.
I would challenge you to expand your creativity. If you're resonating with what we're talking about, and you feel like creativity is something that just has not been a part of your life up to now, maybe you set it aside because somewhere along the line you believe the lie that creativity is tied to immaturity, for example. That's a children's thing. That's only children daydream. Only children do this. Only children do that. You got to work. You got to think about this. They try to conform your thinking. Okay, so a lot of people have lost that muscle strength of creativity. So I would challenge you to pick up something. If you've always guitar is a common one. If you've always wanted to learn guitar and you tried it at some point, and you sucked royally, so you gave it up. And you never did it again. Well, revisit that. Look at the guitar not as a person that has feelings against you and therefore is not going to let you play it well, and start creating stories. Just pick it up and do it. And not because you want to go perform anywhere, not because you want to be a rock star, not because you're going to be the greatest. You could suck. Think about it like singing in the shower. You don't care who hears you, But pick it up for two reasons. One, you've always wanted to, therefore, that seed has always, that desire's always been there. So just do it. Pick it up. Do it. But when you take yourself away from any expectations of what you're going to achieve, or you just pick it up because right now, in the now, I feel like picking it up and messing around with the guitar. Okay, and approach that guitar strictly as something like a toy I'm just messing around with. And you don't even realize it at that point, but you're developing dexterity. Playing with it as a toy. You're not making music yet. You're just exploring it. What does this instrument do? What does it sound like? What does it do if I do this? And just start exploring the instrument, having fun with it. Take away everything else that's tied to expectations. Okay? And you never know what might just come out given enough time. You may create beautiful music and still not even realize what you're doing. Okay? B.B. King. Wow. He had this trademark sound that he would do with his fingers. And come to find out, he developed that sound simply because he would hear records of guitar players using a slide. And he had never seen a slide before, so his ears said, well, play around with it, and he would just mess around with his fingers, and he was like, well, that kind of sounds like it, I'm kind of creating that sound, not using a slide, just using his fingers. And next thing you know, he has this trademark sound that nobody else has, simply because he was having fun with the guitar and messing around, and then, I saw this documentary, with U2, they're having rehearsal on stage with the band U2, and Bono says, "Hey, BB, here's the chords of the song, whatever," and BB's like, "I don't do chords." It's like, by this point, he's a legend. He's older in age at this point, and he's known as being one of the greatest guitar players in history. And B.B. King, I don't do chords. You don't need to concern yourself with all those details. Okay, think about when you learn to speak a language. Everyone says music is a language. When you learn to speak English, if that's your first language, you weren't concerned with grammar. You weren't concerned with spelling. You weren't concerned with capital, lowercase, punctuation. You just learned to speak the language, and you were allowed to make all the mistakes in the world. When you were a baby, every time you made a mistake, your parents cheered you on, and they even adopt your mistaken words and make it part of their vocabulary. Paschetti instead of spaghetti. Every kid goes through that. But you're encouraged through so much. You're encouraged through those mistakes that you're making that eventually you learn to speak the language fluently and you're able to express yourself. If you're hungry, your parents know you're hungry. If you're sad, you learn to express everything that you're feeling through the gift of language. And once you get to that point, then you go to school and start learning the rules and the grammar and all those things, okay? So when it comes to your creative art, don't feel that you need to learn the grammar of that art. If it's painting, if it's drawing, if it's dancing, if it's music, if it's martial arts, at first approach it strictly from a point of love, of fun, of like a child playing a game, You see a martial arts movie and every child's like, wow, and doing all this stuff, right? They're imagining it in their head. Let them speak that language. Let them learn it. Let them grow. You do it. Have fun with it. Okay? Approach it in that way. You never know what may happen. Within a year or two, you may actually be learning all the grammar. In a few years, who knows? But detach yourself from the outcome, because tomorrow doesn't exist yet. Today I'm going to pick it up because this is pretty fun. I've always wanted to play guitar. I'm going to mess around with it today. Approach it that way. So, like I said, if you've felt that barrier that you haven't been able to express yourself through creativity because you've told yourself the lies that you just can't do it, you're not a creative person, you don't have gifting in that area, screw that. You do it for yourself, you don't do it for others. Do it for fun, do it for joy, do it for pleasure, do it for dexterity, do it for neuroplasticity. Do it for stingy reasons of making yourself smarter, so I'm going to pick up guitar just because. Who cares? Just do it. Let that conduit flow. Let your left brain, introduce your left brain to the right brain. Let them become friends again. Let them communicate freely and openly. They don't have to speak one at a time. The things you can do when both sides are ignited is beautiful. So just let it flow, let it happen.
Using that tool for one, music, is powerful.
Juggling
Right.
is one of the best ones for neuroplasticity.
Using different frameworks to get what it is you want to be creative in rolling, that ball rolling. I'd say I've learned a lot from Tony Robbins with the way that man addresses breakthroughs in your life. The first step that he talks about is getting your hunger and your desire awakened. You gotta unleash it. You gotta know it's there. There's something you're hungry for. There's something you're desiring. And we're not talking about the physical things, the outward things. We're talking about inner things first. The first things that you're desiring and hungering for are a completeness to yourself, a fullness, knowing you're enough, knowing that you have reason to be confident, you have reason to step forward. You are a daughter, you're a son, you are capable. You got to know all of this. You have to be in relationship, healthy relationship with yourself. The self has to know it's loved by itself. It's like inward-facing love. It's hard to explain, but you know what I'm talking about. And you have to awaken that you are connected to this passion. You're connected to these deep-seated things that are there with a purpose. They're there to help pull you towards your desires, to help thrust you towards your future. But you don't need to get ahead of yourself. You don't need to try to live in that future, or you don't need to carry yourself or hold back yourself by the things that are in your past, by the actions that were in your past, by the self that exists over there that doesn't actually exist. By disattaching from that and not being attached to the outcome in the future, but being just okay with yourself in the now, you eliminate all this baggage and you get all of these speed bumps out of your way. You're moving a lot quicker in the direction of your dreams. And the reason that you have to get your purpose aligned. You have to know for yourself. Once you get to know yourself, you know what that purpose and that longing in your life has always been, will always be, and what gives you even more joy and peace when you're doing that thing. What is it that was given to you so that you could serve everyone else? What are you specifically good at, especially good at? What are you gifted at that you can now give in service to the rest of the world? Once you know that, the step 2 is doing it. It's taking massive action. Know what your desire is, know what your hunger is, and then act on it. Know what your passion is, and then run after it. And you take that massive action, and just know the number 3 is there's going to be grace. Because you're going to fuck up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to learn from those mistakes. That's the way this machine works. That is the reality. Some days it'll hurt, but your pain does not need to become...
That's how the machine learns, is through mistakes.
Right, you learn through pain, and those days are inevitable. But if you allow the pain that's supposed to be teaching you something to become the suffering that is holding you back, that's on you. You did that. The pain is not meant to be suffering. The pain is meant to teach. It's meant to act on, to respond. We respond to the pain by learning from the lesson, by acquiescing. This rising tide raises all the ships. We move on to the new problem. We move on to the new choice to be made, the new decision that must be made, the new thing I'm overcoming, the new challenge I am facing, the new opportunity for me to be creative in solving this problem, for me to be creative in making the resources work out, making the situation work in my favor. When the Legos are placed in front of me, what am I going to build with them? When the cards are handed to me, how am I going to play my hand? I have to know that the only hand I can play is my own. I can't be wishing for somebody else's hand. I can't be jealous of somebody else's hand. I shouldn't be putting down or picking up someone else's hand as if this person is better than this person or vice versa. No, the truth is I have my hand to play, and without judgment to the other hands on the table, I just need to play. I got to know what my hunger and desire is, and then I have to take massive action to execute in the direction of my passion. If I don't do that, I stay right here, and nothing you do or you do is going to change that. Nothing you say or you say is going to change that. Because the only way I move from here to here is if I get my butt up, if I get off my ass and I move myself. That's the way it works. Myself is going to be limited to where myself takes myself. Self, 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 self. It's not about being selfish. It's about being aware that it's on you. It's on me. I am creator. I am the creation and I am the creator. That's my paradox.
You have to be self-reliant. Realize that you can't rely on anyone else. And that's not saying that there's not people you can count on, that there's not people that you can, it's not saying that's not available to you, okay? It's the sooner you realize that you have to rely on yourself, be 100% self-reliant. That also is extremely powerful. Because that automatically severs so many obstacles, so many lines, so many anchors that were holding you back. Is realizing that, for example, I don't need, a lot of times we make a goal or we have this idea of something that we want to achieve, some great thing, but we in our mind tie it to someone else being a part of it, or something else coming through first, or this has to happen, or, and we keep on tying it to other things. It's passing the buck. It gives you an out as an excuse for not achieving it. You say, this is what I want, but it's dependent on this person following through with this, or this person investing this, or this person helping me do this. No, it relies on you doing it. And rather than waiting for the resources, it's being resourceful. And do it right now with what you have right now. So if it's guitar, well, do air guitar. Come on, But if it's recording videos, do it on whatever media we can do it on. Someday we'll have the big HD, mics, the whole works. But the fact is, you do with what you have now. Be faithful in the small, and you'll be put on great things. Don't rely on anything external of you to allow you to become something. It's realizing that you already are that something. And when you realize it, and we keep on repeating these things over and over again because it's so damn important. But the sooner you realize who you are, who your true nature is, you realize the power that's within you, when you realize that creative spark is in the image of God, when you realize the unlimited creativity that's in you, that reliance of others tends to dissipate. And it goes into last week's topic and the topic before that. Your confidence begins to skyrocket. You want to fix confidence in your life? Become self-reliant. And even if it comes down to all I have is water today, that's all I need to rely on. I don't need anything else for today. I can rely just on drinking water, and I am perfectly okay because I don't need anything else external from me. And that includes God. Because God isn't external from me.
Right.
Okay? That's the whole point of, stop making life external. Make life internal. Realize that God is in you just as much as He is outside of you. And I use He as a general term. Just God is. Don't label what it is. God is. God is omnipresent. God is external everywhere, but it's internal just as much as everywhere as external. And when you understand these truths, you realize and you can have the confidence to do anything you want to do. And whatever that creative mind brings up, you now are able to walk in the confidence knowing I can do that. Why? Because you've filtered out enough lies in your life that when that monkey brain comes up with a new lie, you instantly disregard it. You say, nope, it's not true. So be okay with who you are. Be okay with now. Be okay with silence. Be okay with not relying on anything or anyone external from you. And when that creative spark is ignited, you walk in confidence and you take massive action. You can't take massive action if you're lacking all the confidence. You can't take massive action if you're waiting for someone to come through for you. You can't take massive action if you're waiting for this, that, or the other. It's all just excuses. So take massive action now. Because now is all there is. Don't wait for tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And why leave for tomorrow what you can do today? If it's something you love, wouldn't you rather do it now? Because you love it.
Yeah, yesterday I said I would.
But we were loving company with someone, there's many things you could love. But just be okay with everything. Don't have those expectations. Don't weigh yourself down with what you think you need to be or what you need to become. Just you are.
Yeah, surrendering to what is harder than it appears. But surrendering to what is in line with, don't oversimplify and don't overcomplicate the situation. Don't say, oh, this is going to be easy, because it might not be. And don't be, this is going to be hard, because it's probably not going to be. Things happen to be more down the middle. They follow a law of averages. That's just the way life is. And when we surrender to that, the ebb and flow, the current, the tide of life, the waves have less impact on us because we are being flexible. We know it's going to go this way and then it's going to go this way, inevitably. That's nothing to surprise us. We should not take that personally because it's not personal. The quicker that we awaken to that, the more transformative it is in our lives and allows us to be in other people's lives. How can I have an effect on someone else when, to me, everything that happens in the form of circumstance is personal? I can't have any positive impact on anyone, and I'm not going to enjoy my life if I think it's all happening to me and it's unbearable. But when I surrender to this beauty of life, oh, it's all roses. It's all happening for me. And bad things happen along the way, and they're happening for me. How do I explain them? They're going to teach me something. I love this Tony Robbins quote. I am the creator of my life, not the manager of my circumstances. I am the creator of my life, not the manager of my circumstances. What does that mean? It's about focusing on what I want, what I'm choosing, what I've decided, on my decisions. It's about choosing the kind of character that I know is in line with my highest self, with the man that I'm seeing out there. It's about choosing that now. It's about electing those things that are in line with that higher vibration, highest self. And knowing that that is real. And that the circumstances I'm seeing are a result of my action. That what I am seeing around me that I am now reaping is because of what I have sown. And just accepting that. Accepting and surrendering even to that. And not beating myself up over it, because I have to know that if in the past I made a mistake and now created something I'm not pleased with now in the present, all I have to do is not repeat that mistake. It's on me. It's my decision. It's a choice I'm making. I am now going to choose to not repeat that mistake. I am going to go now and make a new mistake, something new I can learn from. And learn that lesson as quick as possible as well.
Refine that process.
Anything else you want to add?
Oh, I was just laughing for a second because I was reminded of a video of this man on, I think it's on YouTube, trying to play guitar. And every time he makes a wrong note, so he yells at his hand and starts hitting his hand and screaming, and then, it's video after video after video after video, and he just keeps on going and constantly trying to do the same song, and he just has these tantrums and these fits, yelling at his hand, and eventually destroys the guitar. But it's hilarious because he's blaming things that are completely...
How futile.
How can you blame yourself for something so silly? It's a funny example because everyone, if you look at that video, I don't know, just don't be so hard on yourself.
Don't be hard on yourself. You are water. You have the ability to get hard as ice and crush, and you have the ability to become so flexible that you just move around the situation. But the choice is on you, whether you're going to be ice, you're going to be steam, and explode in heat and pressure and make things happen, make things rise. It's on you. That is our choice, our power. It is within our power, given to us by God, being in her image, in his image. We are co-creators and creators of this reality. But we're also realizing the truth within us. What is your truth? You will not know it until you sit in the silence, until you go out in space, get out in nature, get out in the things that are real, and sit in silence and connect with yourself. Connect with your truth, with what is truest in you, what is running and speaking and just brimming to come out, what is asking for your attention, for your focus. When we concentrate and get focused on ourselves, till the point where our self is healthy enough to get us through our day in peace and in joy and harmony, when we step out into the world again after being in the cave in that space, we come out with enough self-love to share. That's the whole point. Until we're okay with ourselves, we don't have enough love to share. And we just delude ourselves when we think that from a place of self-hate, we can somehow love the world. If we think for a second that from a place of self-hate, we're going to go create a beautiful life for ourselves. Creation demands that the Creator's in the right place. And the Father, our Mother, knows what center is and is trying to teach us, bring us back to center. Bring us back to a place where we can have wisdom and understanding in what it is we're creating. That we're discerning to make sure that what we're making of our lives is beautiful, is vivid, vibrant, healthy. It's adding, it's making light. It is allowing us to be the salt of the earth, allowing us to be light, to add, grow, to be water for those around us. It's all within our capability, within our possibility. I'm very, very thankful to be able to have these sort of discussions because we are now creating spaces for this sort of discussion. We're creating a moment in time for someone to be made aware of this. We're creating a moment in time for us to be reminded of this. And that's beautiful because this is important. This conversation is important.
We love you. We thank you. You're the reason why we do these shows. please leave us feedback, ask questions, and just don't be afraid to take the steps. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to be creative. Don't be afraid to smile and show love to others. Okay, we love you, and we truly, truly thank you.
Keep on loving, love some more. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning up. Stay tuned, be blessed, and we will see you again next time.